Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I'm here to talk to you about some monthly recommendations. Monthly Recommendations, of course, is a Goodreads group that was created by the lovely Trina from the channel Between Chapters and Kayla Rain from the channel Kayla Rain, and this is a very exciting month. So basically, this Goodreads group, Monthly Recommendations, was started 1 year ago. The first time that it was done was in August of 2015. In honor of Monthly Recommendations being around for 1 full year, they're doing kind of a celebration of all of their previous topics. So today I have 12 books to recommend to you, one for each theme from the past year of Monthly Recommendations themes. I started doing Monthly Recommendations November of last year, so the first two are actually themes I haven't done yet. But yeah, I want to talk about one book from every theme for the past year of monthly recommendations. For all of these, I chose a book for each theme that was not on my original monthly recommendations list for that month. I might have recommended it another time, but maybe that happened. Anyway, let's just jump right in and get started because I have 12 books to recommend. So, the first theme way back in August of 2015 was to recommend underrated books. And the underrated book that I want to recommend to you is The Mystic Arts of Erasing All Signs of Death by Charlie Huston. This is a very strange book about this guy who somehow gets a job cleaning up murder scenes. To be honest, this was not an occupation I really had ever considered existed, but it makes sense. You know, all those guys in like CSI come in, they look at the murder scene, and then they leave. And then someone's gonna have to come in and take care of that. So the main character of this book, that is his job. He cleans up murder scenes. But somehow he also gets pulled into some stuff with the mafia that he never expected, and a bunch of crazy stuff happens. Purchasing this book was purely a cover buy kind of thing when I originally got it, but it has wound up being a book that's totally stuck with me in the years since I've read it. It's fun, it's really different, it's weird, and thoroughly enjoyable. So I'm always hoping that more people will pick up this book because I haven't seen a single other person ever talk about it on BookTube, and I'd like to change that. The next monthly recommendations theme was to recommend a book set at school, and for this I'm going to recommend Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I am recommending Fangirl specifically because it takes place at college and I am a college student, so it just felt a little bit more relevant to me. Basically, everyone has already read this. I was very, very late jumping on the train and reading it last month. However, it super impressed me, so I want to talk about it again. This book follows a girl named Kath, and she is going to her first year of college with her twin sister, Ren, and they have always done everything together, but Ren decides she wants to break off and be her own person in college, and so she doesn't want to live with Kath. So Kath kind of has to navigate her first year of college alone. Kath also writes a lot of fan fiction for a book series called Simon Snow, which is this universe's reinterpretation of Harry Potter. But basically this book is about Kath figuring out who she's going to be as an adult without the world that's always surrounded her. It's a super fascinating book in terms of growing up. I wish that more YA was set in college because I think it is an area that has been less discussed, and I think it's super important. And overall, it's just a fantastic book that I highly recommend. For the third book I'm going to be recommending, I'm supposed to be recommending a creepy book, and for this I want to talk about Phantoms by Dean Koontz. This follows two sisters, and basically one of them is an adult, she lives on her own, and through some circumstances the younger sister is going to go and live with her older sister. But when they drive to where the older sister lives, the town is mysteriously empty. No one is around, and so they start going into homes and they find some bodies with grotesquely terrified faces frozen forever in death. It is definitely a page turner. It's one that you constantly want to get through. I read it and I was just like breezing through it any moment of the day. I had it open and I was trying to read it. It is different, it's creepy, and just really, it's a really fun book to read. So October's coming up. I know it's not, like we still have a while, but once it hits July, I'm in October mode, so I'm already prepping with some scary books I want to read in October. Next up is actually the first monthly recommendations topic that I personally participated in, and that was to recommend trilogies. So I have chosen a trilogy that was not on my original list, and that is the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. The only reason this was not on my original trilogy recommendations list is because I read it the month that I did that monthly recommendations video. So, fun fact. The way that I like to describe this book is sort of just the little quote that it begins with, and it says, "Once upon a time an angel and a devil fell in love, and it did not end well." That's kind of the most that I like to give people based on this series, just because I think that there's so much to this book that is about discovering the story. It is lyrically written, it is really lovely in the way that it creates scenes, and Kaoru is a fascinating main character. So definitely recommend this trilogy. I'm super glad that I picked it up, and yes. Recommend. The next theme that I want to talk about was books that we were recommending to read as soon as possible, or books to read in 2016, and that has been changed to books that you should read before the year ends. It's a book that I super highly recommend that should be high priority to you. I thought about this for a long time because there are a lot of books that I like to recommend to people that I recommend constantly, but I decided to talk about one that I don't talk about as often, but that was really important to me, and that is the Vagina Monologues by Eve Ensler. This is a really interesting collection of monologues that Eve Ensler put together, that they are all sort of about vagina positivity and being willing to talk about the vagina. I read it for my Women in Theater course a couple of years ago and completely adored it. I tore through it and then immediately wanted to reread it. It caused a lot of great discussion, and it's overall just a really important work to me. If you haven't read this yet, I think that it's important to read. I think you should go out and you should try and pick it up. So if I was going to recommend to you a book that I just highly recommend across the board, this is definitely it. Next up, I'm going to recommend a fantasy book, and that book that I'm going to recommend is The Rook by Danielle O'Malley. This is sort of an adult urban fantasy story. It basically follows a girl named Miffany Thomas, and one day she wakes up, she has no memory of who she is, and she's surrounded by dead bodies. She receives a series of letters from herself saying that she can either take one route, disappear, and she'll never have to think about any of this again, or she can go back to work and try to rediscover who she is and who would have wiped her memory. She obviously decides to go back to work, and that is when she discovers that she works for a covert intelligence agency in London whose goal is to protect the people of London from supernatural threats. It's funny, it's lighthearted, it's upbeat, it's different, and it's incredibly well written. I love Miffany, I love the sort of surreal world that this story creates, and I am dying to get my hands on the sequel Stiletto, which finally just came out this year in the past couple of months. I recommend this book constantly because I think it is a fantasy book that deserves a lot more attention, so please pick it up. The next topic was to recommend a book with little or no romance at all, and for this I'm going to be recommending Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire. This is a super short book about children who have somehow found doorways to other worlds, worlds where they truly belong, and then for some reason they have been dumped back into our world and they don't know how to deal with this anymore. So they are sent to a home, and all of these children live together and just kind of try to process the fact that at one point they were in a place where they felt completely accepted and they can no longer get there. This book has no romance whatsoever. The lead character is asexual and I believe aromantic as well. I'm pretty sure there's no romance in this book. It is all just about these specific kids' journeys, and it's super interesting as you get to discover more about the different worlds that they have all visited and who they feel they truly are. There's also sort of a murder mystery aspect, which is super unexpected but really great, and it's just a fantastic little book that I highly recommend. Topic number 8 was just to recommend a standalone. That's it. These are getting harder and harder to find as we go along. Why? I just don't like that everything has to be a series. I don't like that trend right now. So the book that I'm going to recommend that is a standalone is Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fannie Flagg. Again, this is a book I recommend constantly, though I think I've managed to not recommend it for a few months. It was hard. This is basically just a historical fiction book about a couple of women living in the South. It has such an infectious atmosphere. You just open that book and feel like you are at the Whistle Stop Cafe and you got some fried green tomatoes and you got your sweet tea. You're just there as soon as you open the book. This book follows Ruth and Iggy's relationship for a good number of years. It is beautiful to read. It has so many wonderful elements. It's a wonderful story. I've read one more Fannie Flagg book since I read this one. and she just does such a good job of writing atmosphere and characters, and this is a fantastic book. Topic number 9 was to recommend a survival story, so I went through my list of books that I recommended that were survival stories and picked the only survival story I've ever read that wasn't on that list. And that is The Martian by Andy Weir. This book is about an astronaut named Mark Watney. He goes up to Mars with a group of other astronauts, and through a series of circumstances, they leave Mars thinking he's dead. He's not dead, and then he has to live on Mars. Mark Watney is a hilarious main character. He has this dark gallows humor that carries him through the situation as he's alone on Mars for like so long. It makes the science accessible, it makes the story fun, and also has a great adaptation, and this book is definitely one that lives up to the hype. The 10th topic was to recommend a favorite book friendship and books that featured our favorite book friendships, and I'm gonna recommend Lumberjanes. The Lumberjanes comics were originally created by Noelle Stevenson, Grace Ellis, Brooke Allen, and Shannon Waters. It has since moved on to other creators. Those were the original women who created it. It is a story about 5 girls who go to this summer camp, and there tends to be a lot of fighting monsters. But basically the theme of these comics is just friendship to the max. Like, this book is unapologetically positive. It celebrates friendship. It celebrates diversity and female friendship. 2 of the lead girls are queer and in a relationship. 1 of the lead girls is trans. All of this is dealt with in such a fantastic and interesting way. It was created by a diverse group of women. I love the style of the comics because I love Noelle Stevenson's style, and I just can't recommend it enough. You guys know, it's just so good. Next, I am recommending a book set outside the US or a book that features travel. I've decided to focus on a book that features travel and recommend to you Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. This book follows a girl named Amy. Sometime in the past few months, her father has died and her mother is moving them across the country from California to Connecticut, and she wants Amy to drive their car there. But since her father's death, Amy has not been able to get behind the wheel of a car, so an old family friend, Roger, offers to drive because he also has to get out east. And so they sort of bond in this cross-country trip where they break from Amy's mom's course that she set, and they just decide to go on this crazy road trip together. This book is so sweet. It definitely is all about travel and road trips, and it's so much fun. There are pictures of a lot of the locations in here, entries from journals. There are pictures of like receipts even, and playlists, and it just makes the road trip experience feel so much more real. I have been on tons of road trips in my life. I am part of a huge road trip family, so this just brought the love of road trips back to me. Plus, while there is romance, I think that it takes sort of a backseat to just Amy kind of dealing with her father and who she is now, because she's just been dealing with so much grief. It is a really wonderful balance of all of these different elements, and I was so pleasantly surprised by it, so absolutely loved it. And the final monthly recommendations theme was to recommend books with your favorite empowering female characters, and for this one I'm going to be recommending The Princess Academy by Shannon Hale. I talked about Shannon Hale recently. I did a whole author spotlight on her because pretty much all of her books feature fantastic female characters, so if you want to go check that out. This book in particular, it takes place on these mountains with this mountain colony, and especially the lead character is a girl named Miri, and then word comes from the kingdom down below that their prince is going to have to marry one of the Mount Eskel girls. So all of the girls who live on this mountain are sent to a princess academy so that they can learn to be proper ladies. This book breaks so many expectations of the story that you think you're going to be getting. It is about embracing female friendships. It is just about positivity and growing, and it is about family and connection. There's a teeny tiny bit of romance that is super adorable. That is a theme in all of Shannon Hale's books as well. But over the course of this trilogy, Miri goes on such a wonderful journey, and she is just a female character that gets to meet so many different types of women, and it's a wonderful, wonderful journey to go on with her. So if you're looking for books with empowering female character leads, I highly recommend The Princess Academy, or really anything by Shannon Hale. Okay guys, there you go. Those are my monthly recommendations. I hope that you have enjoyed watching and that you found some new books to check out. Make sure to go and subscribe to Kayla and Trina. They both have fantastic channels, and this is a great group that they have put a lot of work into creating, so go subscribe to them as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!